Hey everybody, it's Ron and Ellie back with this week's edition of Ask Ron. First up this week is new Gold Club member Alton Brown from Oregon. He says, I have a single family house held in a land trust. How can I find a buyer to assign my beneficial interest to for cash?
Well, Alvin, the fact that you have it in a land trust has nothing to do with finding a buyer. It's the same process, no matter how you own it. But assigning your beneficial interest in a land trust is going to be touchy. First you find the buyer, and then I would let them decide, do you want me to assign my beneficial interest to you and save closing costs, or would you rather pay the closing cost and have my trust deed you the property? That puts the choice on them. Very simple solution.
Okay. Next up is Rochelle Johnson from Texas.
Hey Rochelle.
She says, is the purchase contract the same for both seller financing deals and subject to deals?
It's the same purchase contract, Rochelle, but it's not filled out the same. If there's owner financing involved, paragraph 2B has to be completed stating the terms of the owner financing. That is not true if it's an existing loan you're just taking over subject to. By the way, I'll be in San Antonio Saturday now, so if you're around, come see me, spend a day out there. And I'm coming back for the March boot camp will be taking place in San Antonio as well. So we can speak Texas to all you Texans.
Okay, next up is California, Marianne Nunez, your favorite.
Of course. Hi, Mary.
Her first question of two says, is a flipper entity in a C Corp for all kinds of deals or just certain types of deals?
A flipper entity, by its nature, is designed for properties that you're not going to be in, which means you don't have tenants in them. I do all my deals like wholesaling, acts, and rehabbing and retailing in my flipper entity, and I do use a C Corp. However, if there's a tenant in it, I put it over in an investment entity because they're taxed totally different, and for a lot of other reasons we're not going to get into right now, I want to keep those totally separate. So, to be simple, if there's a tenant in it, it's an investment entity. If there's not, it's probably a flipper entity.
Okay, her second question asks, are work for equity deals only done on free and clear houses?
Now, why would you ever think that? I don't know where you got that from. I do work for equity deals on properties with a mortgage on them, as well as houses with free and clear. It makes no difference what the underlying debt is to the work for equity deal, as long as the incoming rent from your work for equity tenant buyer covers your underlying debt. No harm in putting somebody in there on a lease purchase and let them do the work with their own money and their own labor until they get it cashed out. I've done it many times.
Okay, next up is Andrea Huepe from Wisconsin.
Andrea, I'm sorry it's so cold up there.
She says, Ron, I heard you say you make an offer based on other offers made to the same property. What resource can I use to find that information?
I have no idea what you're talking about, and I can assure you, you never heard me say that. You must have left out half the sentence or something. I never said any such thing. How would I know what other offers are being made on a property unless, of course, I'm the one that made them? So I just don't know how to answer that question.
Okay. Next up is Bernie Agony from California.
Hey, Bernie.
Bernie's first question says, do you have a software program I can use to wholesale deals out of the area or out of state?
Yeah. It's called Craigslist. No, I don't own it, but that's what you would use. You don't need a software program. You just need a property under contract, and you put it on Craigslist, and you put it on wherever you want to put it. But if you're asking me if I have a classified network of wholesale buyers, no. Honestly, I don't know why you need to go out of state anyway. If you've got a deal worth doing, you won't have any trouble selling the property right there locally, and it will be a lot easier to mostly rehabbers or people who want to just buy them and put tenants in them.
He's got another question about doing deals out of state. It says, is it possible to close deals remotely without actually going to meet with other investors?
I almost never go meet with other investors. In fact, I haven't been to a real bona fide real estate closing in person as long as I can remember. They're almost all done virtually nowadays. Usually the seller goes in and then later the buyer comes in, and that's certainly the case on lease purchases. Sometimes the seller never goes in and sits with the attorney. The buyer always does, in my case, but it's usually virtual. And honestly, that's the case if it's in the same town I'm in, much less if I'm in other states.
Okay, last question this week comes from Francisco in Texas.
Francisco in Texas, coming your way, man.
He says, I own a small starter house. I want to put a tenant buyer in on a lease with option to purchase. I have a candidate that needs to raise their credit score by a mere 30 points to obtain an FHA loan.
Okay.
Do I have a closing with an attorney for the lease option and then another close with the title company once the tenant obtains the loan?
The answer is yes. Now remember, now in Texas, you must own the property for you to get a non-refundable option deposit. You said you do, so I'm taking your word for it. But the answer is yes. Your attorney will close the lease purchase, and then some other title company will close the sale when you get the FHA tenant or the FHA buyer qualified. And sometimes the lender will determine what closing agent that is. Honestly, you don't really care anyway because you're getting cashed out on.
Okay, Ron, that's all the questions we have for you this week. Yes, sir.
That's all there is this week.
I know.
All right, guys, look at here. This year is burning already. We've got 6 weeks into this year already. Have you started yet? What are you doing? You making any money yet? If not, you better come see Papa. I'll be in 12 different locations this year doing my 4-day event, so contact us and get in the next one you possibly can get in. And if you need help financing it, let us help you financing it. If you're not going to get this thing going now, when will you? Don't let money stop you. So just contact us and we'll do what we can to help you. All right, I'll see you next week at this time. I'm heading out now to go to the Tampa boot camp here shortly, and I'll spend all week down there helping folks get involved in this real estate thing, and we're going to do a lot of deals while we're down there. So see you next week. Tune in.